Andrea Stella just admitted something that could tear McLaren apart. After Singapore, the team principal confessed they're risking the trust of both their drivers. But here's what makes this terrifying. Is McLaren's championship car about to become worthless because they can't manage their own drivers? Why did Oscar Piastri's 8-word radio message reveal a crisis that's been building all season? And could Max Verstappen win the title simply because McLaren's drivers are too busy fighting each other instead of him? The evidence from Singapore paints a disturbing picture. And what Andrea Stella said afterwards suggests McLaren finally understands how serious this has become. Let's start with what actually happened in Singapore, because the incident itself tells only half the story. Lap 1. Lando Norris makes an aggressive move that results in contact with both Max Verstappen and his own teammate, Oscar Piastri. Norris continues, finishes third. But Piastri? His radio message cut through everything. That wasn't very team-like, but sure, 8 words. But according to reports from the team, the tone in Piastri's voice revealed everything. He wasn't just frustrated about the contact. He was frustrated about what it represented. Here's where it gets worse. McLaren's response was to tell Piastri that what happened was acceptable racing. No intervention needed. For a driver who's followed team orders before, who's been asked to help the team multiple times, this felt like a betrayal. Think about what McLaren just told Piastri. When you're asked to sacrifice, you do it. When Norris makes contact with you on lap 1, that's just racing. The timing here is crucial, because this isn't happening when McLaren is fighting for 5th or 6th in the Constructors' Championship. According to the source document, Piastri is leading Norris by 22 points in the Drivers' Championship. Max Verstappen is still mathematically in the fight. McLaren's internal war could hand the title to their biggest rival, but Singapore wasn't the beginning of this crisis. It was just the moment when everything McLaren has been doing wrong finally became impossible to ignore. Because there's a pattern here that reveals how McLaren created this disaster themselves. Andrea Stella's comments after Singapore were shockingly honest about the scale of McLaren's problems. The review needs to be very detailed, very analytical, Stella explained to media, and it needs to take into account the point of view of our 2 drivers. Then came the admission that should worry every McLaren fan. We need to be accurate because there is a lot at stake. Not only the championship points, but the trust of our drivers and the way we operate as a team. Let that sink in. The team principal is publicly admitting that McLaren's handling of their drivers has put the entire team relationship at risk. Here's what went wrong. McLaren created their famous papaya rules, simple guidelines that basically said, don't crash into your teammate. But instead of keeping it simple, McLaren spent the entire season making too many decisions, creating too many interventions, building expectations they couldn't possibly meet consistently. Stella even admitted this. We want to protect this. Let them race concept, and we know as soon as you adopt this concept, you face difficulties. Translation? McLaren knows their system isn't working. They just don't know how to fix it. The data shows the pattern. McLaren has created a situation where both drivers expect the team to step in when things don't go their way. But the team can't make decisions that satisfy both drivers every time. The result? Growing frustration from both Norris and Piastri, both feeling like they're being treated unfairly. And here's what makes this even more dangerous for McLaren. Because it's not just about managing 2 frustrated drivers, it's about what happens when those drivers start questioning whether McLaren is the right place for their careers. The psychological impact on both drivers reveals how deep this crisis goes. According to the source material, Piastri has been with McLaren since 2023. He's shown incredible loyalty. He's followed team orders when asked. He's always put the team first. Singapore tested that loyalty in a way McLaren might not recover from. When a driver feels like their own team isn't supporting them, it creates doubt that affects performance on track. And Piastri isn't just any driver. He's leading the championship standings. Norris is feeling the pressure differently. He's been with McLaren since 2019, worked hard to help build the team back to championship level. He knows his aggressive driving style sometimes creates problems, but he also feels like he needs to take risks to win races. The criticism after Singapore has put him in an impossible position. Here's what makes this complicated. Both drivers have strong support within McLaren. Norris has been the star driver for years, has a close relationship with team boss Zach Brown. Piastri is seen as the future, has impressed everyone with his speed and maturity. Any decision McLaren makes will upset one group of supporters within the team, and other teams are watching. As the source document points out, Red Bull, Mercedes, and Ferrari all know that unhappy drivers look for new opportunities. If McLaren can't solve their internal problems, they could lose one or both drivers to rival teams. The 2026 driver market could look very different if McLaren's best drivers decide to leave. But here's the most revealing part of Andrea Stella's comments, because what he said next suggests McLaren is finally starting to understand the solution, even if implementing it might be impossible. Stella made a crucial admission about McLaren's approach going forward. According to reports, he said that any more interventions between their drivers would likely be unnecessary and ultimately counterproductive. Think about what that means. After a season of constant management and intervention, McLaren's team principal is suggesting they need to stop trying to control everything. The source material reveals what McLaren needs to do: set clear rules and stick to them, regardless of which driver benefits or suffers. They need to accept that in a championship fight between teammates, tension and conflict are inevitable. Trying to eliminate all friction between Norris and Piastri has only made things worse. Both drivers are watching every decision the team makes to see if they're being treated fairly. When drivers start feeling like their own team is working against them, it destroys championship campaigns. Here's the reality McLaren faces. Their technical team has built a championship-winning car. The engineers and designers created a machine that can compete with Red Bull and beat them on many weekends. But as the document points out, all that technical progress could be wasted if the team can't manage their drivers properly. The next few races will be crucial. McLaren needs to show both drivers they can make fair, consistent decisions under pressure. They've already secured the Constructors' Championship, but their future success depends on whether they can solve this crisis. Andrea Stella's honest assessment gives McLaren a chance to fix these problems before they become unsolvable. But understanding the problem and fixing it are two very different things. Can McLaren rebuild trust with two drivers who are already questioning the team's decisions? Will Piastri's loyalty survive another incident like Singapore? And most importantly, will McLaren's internal crisis hand Max Verstappen a championship he shouldn't win? The evidence suggests we're about to find out. Drop a comment with your prediction. Does McLaren solve this, or does their dream season turn into a nightmare? And hit subscribe, because this story is far from over.